Good morning, YouTube. This is Johnny, BookTube, and I'm going to make a video this morning. It's been about a week since I made a video, and it's just that, I don't know, I think my last video I said I'm kind of out of it. I'm kind of sick of everything. Everything is depressing. Everything is just a mess in America, and it's just I don't know. And also I think I've mentioned over the years as I've been making videos that I get times when I'm kind of clogged, I'm kind of stuffed, satiated. Nothing else will get inside my brain, and so I just kind of go into this state where I just kind of out of it. So that's why I haven't made any videos the last 7 days. I'm just kind of sick of everything, satiated, wasted, exhausted, world weary. But my wife just left this morning for a women's Bible study, and I don't feel so clogged. I feel like things are flowing somewhat. I started feeling that way yesterday. I hadn't been able to read for a couple days. I mean, I always reading, but not intensely or with deep concentration. But I was able to read yesterday. First of all, this is July the 15th, 2020. Is 9:33 in the morning. We just closed the house up to turn on the air conditioner. It's going to be another hot and humid and muggy day here in West Michigan. So it is a Wednesday morning. It is the middle of July. We're going to the month of August. Writing in my diary as usual. I'm on page 670 for the year 2020. I'm in the middle of the month. Yeah, this is my diary, and so yeah, we've gone through 169 days. There's 197 days left in the year 2020, so we're kind of halfway through the year 2000. Tomorrow I start the second part of my July 2020. As I've mentioned in the past, I write from July the 1st into the middle of the month, July the 15th, and then I always start on the 16th of a month in my second folder here. So I've been writing, you know, I write every day in the morning, afternoon, and evenings, at night. I'm always writing down my day-to-day life as a Christian bookworm, as a pilgrim in a weary land. So I've been writing in my diary, and this morning, the other day I was on Facebook, and I have a friend who teaches historical theology out in Colorado, and he's originally from Canada. He's a Canadian, and he's on my Facebook. I've known about Ian, and he's now married and has kids, and I've known about him for many years. He used to have a live journal. He used to have a blog and live journal many years ago, and he worked there in Toronto. He worked in a bookstore that was owned by a friend of mine who died several years ago. And so I always keep track of Ian. And the long story short, there is called Canadian, some kind of Christian theological Canadian, it's called Canadian Gospel Coalition. And him and another guy who has a PhD are going to read through Calvin's Institutes, like a podcast, but they also have a YouTube channel, Canadian Gospel Coalition. And so they're going to read through Calvin's institutes of religion. They got this schedule they're going to go through. The Gospel, THE, anyway, Theology, Gospel Coalition, and they're going to read through Calvin's Institutes. And so I started rereading Calvin's Institutes. As I've said in the past, when I was in Bible college and seminary, I took theology, Reformed theology, and we used Burkhoff's systematics in Bible college. And I took classes like electives on Reformed theology. And anyway, and when I went to Reformed Theological Seminary in Jackson, Mississippi, one of our textbooks was Calvin's Institute. So I've been reading Calvin's Institutes for almost, 45 years. So it's kind of like a read with me. I love John Calvin. As you know, John Calvin was a very devout Christian, and he wrote commentaries and treatises. But he's most famous for this Christian classic, Calvin's Institutes. And so I got these out to read this morning. I was reading the introduction. And as I've mentioned, I've been reading for the last couple of months Reformation commentary, reading on the Old Testament book, the book of Joshua. So I was reading that yesterday, and I've been reading Biblical Theology According to the Apostles, how the earliest Christians told the story of Israel. Chris Bruno and Jared Compton and Kevin McFadden. So these are the things I've been reading when I'm not clogged or feel I'm just wandering the wasteland, and start reading Calvin's Institutes of Christian Religion. I recommend this edition, edited by John T. McNeill. This is a two volume edition that is standard today. I highly recommend this edition. So, besides that, I've been reading, still reading, excuse me, I'm going to drink some of this. So, yeah, the last 7 days, I'm just kind of reading a little bit here and there. I'm always reading, I'm always writing, watching the birds, my wildflower garden. I haven't really gone anywhere. I've gone local thrift stores. That's about it. So I've been reading still the book of Disquiet. This is what I basically read when I'm really clogged. I can read this. It's not too taxing mentally, intellectually. So it's kind of like you can read the book of Disquiet by Fernando, and you can just think about it and ponder it and ruminate on it. So I've been reading those. This is the edition I like, the Penguin Classic Edition, edited by and translated by Richard Zenith. Pessoa was a Portuguese poet and writer. He died in 1935. He was a very famous poet in his day. I don't think he was really famous. I'm not really sure about that. And as I mentioned, I was reading Herzog. I put Herzog down for a couple of days by Saul Bellow. This was a third time of reread. This is one of my favorite Saul Bellow's novels, Herzog. And I got out and I read for a couple of days, off and on, Saul Bellow's novel, Sammler's Planet. These are almost kind of like, have the same kind of tone. You have a narrative by it's like the inner life inner dialogues of a main character is usually an academic. So I read those until I got burnt out. And I read last 7 days, way back in the beginning, The Shadow in the Garden, a biographer's tale by James Atlas. As I've mentioned, James Atlas wrote a biography on Saul Bellow. So I was reading the part in here where he is writing about his research and interviewing Saul Bellows and his life, and so I kind of put that down for a couple of days and haven't really gotten back into it. And then I got out the other night, I started rereading The Origin of the Brunists by Robert Coover. Been rereading that, not rereading it, but getting back into this a little bit last couple of days. And then I got in the mail yesterday, last night, evening, Antikind, a novel by Charlie Kaufman. I read this yesterday evening. I read it until late into the night. I've read about 63 pages. Really enjoying it. It's kind of fascinating. It's kind of hard to tell you what this is. If you've watched Charlie Kaufman's movies, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Being in John Malkovich. He's known as a screenwriter. His movies are kind of offbeat, but it's kind of hard to explain what this is, but check it out. You might find it interesting. It reminds me somewhat of Saul Bellow. It's kind of interesting. He mentioned last night Saul Bellows, his novel The Dangling Man. So I don't know if he got inspiration from Saul Bellow, but check this out. Just came out 2020, a new novel. I did get this book in the mail this week. This is a slim little volume on the American History series, Parties, Politics, and Early Republic, 1789 to 1815, by Morton, Borden. So I got this week in the mail. I did go to the thrift stores the beginning of the week, and I found a novel by Francine Prose, My New American Life. As you know, I collect the writings of Francine Prose. I've read a couple of her novels. She wrote a book on the writer, Reading Like a Writer. She has a book called Anne Frank, the book. I don't have that. But I found this at a thrift store and I bought it. Then I found this little novel at a thrift store by Leonard Gardner, Fat City. It has a quote here by Joyce Cora Oates, quintessentially American story of surpassing beauty and heartbreak, flawlessly rendered and unforgettable. Now this was published in 1986. It was his only novel by Leonard Gardner, but when I cataloged this in my library thing, it has been reprinted by the New York Review Books, and I think in 2015, Fat City by Leonard Gardner. So it got critical acclaim. It's very slim. It only has 168 pages. So I bought that. And then I found this at a thrift store, The Fallen Pen, Women Writers and Novelists from 1621 to 1818 by P.J. McCarthy. This was published in the 1940s. It's considered a classic on female writers from 1621 to 1818. In this it mentions novelists and writers around the time of Samuel Johnson that were friends with Samuel Johnson. That's kind of why I got it. And but it focuses on women writers from 1621 to 1818, the female pen. I think there's a photo in here of one of the, this woman here was friends with Samuel Johnson. She wrote a diary in a journal where she writes about Samuel Johnson and his friends, like James Boswell. Yeah, she lived from 1752 to 1840. So these women were at the time of Samuel Johnson. Then I picked up a little biography, Churchill, The Young Man in a Hurry, 1874 to 1915 by Ted Morgan. Ted Morgan wrote a biography on the writer William Burroughs. He also wrote a biography on Maud. He wrote a history book too, which I can't remember what else he wrote, Ted Morgan, but he wrote a biography on William Burroughs and a biography on Maud, Mon. And then my wife found at the local library, the local little library, like you have those little box libraries in your neighborhood, she found this science fiction classic, Ice by Anna Coven. There's Nothing Like It by Dorsey Lessing, a little comment. So these are used books. Ice by Anna Coven. And then this biography on Churchill, The Young Man in a Hurry, 1874 to 1915 by Ted Morgan. See, he wrote Mon. See there? Monham. Then The Female Pen by P.J. McCarthy, Women Writers and Novelists, 1621 to 1818. Fat City, Leonard Gardner. This was first published in 1969. My New American Life, a novel by Francine Prose. This was published first in, what year was this came out? 2011. American History, Parties and Politics in the Early Republic, 1789 to 1850 by Morton, Borden. A new novel by Charlie Kaufman, Antikind. So yeah, reading The Origin of the Brunists by Robert Coover. Reading Herzog, Saul Bellow. Mr. Salomar's Planet by Saul Bellow. The Shadow in the Garden. This is like a memoir. Biographer's Tale by James Atlas. Reading the Book of Disquiet, Pessoa. Reading the Bible. Started reading Calvin's Institutes, Volume 1. Biblical Theology According to the Apostles by Bruno, Compton, and McFadden. And reading the Reformation commentary on the book of Joshua, writing in my diary, watching the birds, watching the flowers, talking to my wife. Our kids are all gone. They left last Saturday. My daughter Beth and her family, that was the last one. As you know, our oldest son Caleb, his wife Emily, and our little granddaughters Josie and Cora live down the street from us. And yeah, my wife is enjoying her retirement, getting used to not working. She's getting over a cold, and I'm kind of been bummed out, kind of just sick of everything. And yeah, so that's my life. I just want to say, I know I've been gone 7 days. You can always read about my day-to-day life in Crooked Fingers. I'm online. You can look at my Flickr account. You can look at my Bandcamp account. You can read my diary, Crooked Fingers, that's going back since 2001. I write every day. I post photos and videos, and my life is an open book. So yeah, so that's my life. Thank you for the comments. thank you for the new subscribers, and hope you're not sick with this plague. It seems to be getting really, really bad throughout the United States and the world. And we just gotta keep seeking the Lord in the midst of these troublesome times, in the midst of this anarchy and chaos and death. We have to look up and cry, "Come, Lord Jesus, quickly." So I hope you're all doing well. As I said, thank you for your comments and subscription and for your kind words. And until next time, bye.